Hi, I'm Brendan Mills from CFO Dynamics, and in this video today I want to take you through the general ledger and the stock consequences of completing a bill of materials or completing a works order. So we've shown in previous videos how to do a works order, so I'm just going to breeze through actually the doing of the works order itself. But wanted to share with you how this impacts the general ledger. So one of the areas where people can really suffer within the system is when, is when they don't understand how the stock process is impacted in the system and how that impacts on your general ledger, where you get balances that are out of balance, or accounts or amounts on your balance sheet or your profit and loss that you can't explain or you can't understand as to why that's happened. So let's go through this. What we've got here is we've got this Ford engine, and it's made up of an engine, it's made up of some labor, made up of an air filter and some battery. So ignore what it actually is. But the point I wanted to raise here is you've got three tangible things: an engine, a filter, and a battery. Items that are tangible and should be tracked for stock purposes. But then you've also got labor, and we're assigning a value to this labor. And this is one of the most important parts of the whole process. So if I expand this and we say our used cost, when I add all those costs together, is around about $6,200. Which is our costs associated with manufacturing this item. So when we're going to go and post these transactions, this is going to add a value of $6,200 to our balance sheet. But the challenge that we face is that only items 1, 3, and 4 are actual tangible items in stock. We'll talk about the labor component in a moment. So let's do this. So we've completed the manufacturing of this Ford engine. So we're going to add one of these into stock. We're going to take out one of these engines, 5 of these air filters, and 1 of these batteries. So if I go ahead and process that, it's just confirming with us that are we sure? Otherwise the transactions will post. There we go. We're happy to post those transactions. Now, if I go into my maintain stock items and look for that Ford engine, you can see now we have one item. And dig a little deeper into my transactions, we can see that because of the works order we've just completed on the 6th of the 4th, it has a unit cost of $6,322, which is the value of the materials and the labor that went into manufacturing it. So that now has a purchase value of $6,322. Getting late in the day, $6,322.77. So if I right click on that transaction, I can view the source transaction and I can see that what the bill of materials is and the components that went into that, if I want to see that level of detail. So if I close out of here and then go in and look at my, I think it was one of the air filters, I think it was this one here, you should be able to see, as we've seen just here, the air filters from works order 1004 come out of stock. So that makes complete sense. We're saying we're taking these 5 items out of stock and we are now putting it into as a part, or the value is part of our inventory in the Ford engine that we've produced. But we've also got this labor. So labor doesn't sit on the balance sheet, and also if I fast forward over here to my general ledger and I type in wages, we've got wages direct and wages admin. So if we're including our wages cost in here when we do payroll, but we're also adding a cost to labor in the stock, are we double counting our costs? Because you might think we're inflating the cost of our inventory or the value of our inventory while also expensing the wages. The system has a way to get around this, and I'll share that with you in a moment. So let me just come back to stock for a moment. Sorry, the chart of accounts. If I go back to the stock for a moment, you might be asking, well, why do we want to include the labour? And the reason we want to include the labour is to get a true cost of this item. So the sales guy who is seeing the latest cost and making decisions about what to sell this item for based on the cost price, if we don't include that labour, he's going to think it costs less to produce this item than what it really does. So we need to make sure we capture all those costs, including the labour. But how do we get the P&L to balance out? So if I go into my stock transactions, and I think it is under inventory. No, must be under stock. Go into stock on hand. If I look in here under April, and it was the 6th of April that we did that transaction, if I fast forward down here, you'll notice that there is no transactions on the 6th of April which relate to the stock that we've produced. So the engine, the filters, and the other items that went into that. It's because there is no actual movement either way in those transactions. However, the labour, you'll be going, well, where has my labour come into it? If I go under end of month and post ledgers to general ledger, and I look for my unposted transactions under stock, and if I scan any period, you'll notice a few in here, but there's a couple that I want to in particularly focus on. If I just sort by reference, it is this one here with the Ford engine. So what you can see here is that we're saying for the labour, there's an adjustment for works order 1004, which is for 72 units at $18 per unit, which got us the $1,296 adjustment. So what's going to happen here amongst these other transactions which have been completed is we're going to offset that amount by increasing the value of our stock, but then the credit goes against the P&L. Let me show you this, how it works. So if I do a new GL post run, now there might be some other lines in here that aren't relevant, but let's look at it. There we go. So what we're saying here is the stock on hand is being increased in value because of the labour component. Now, this here is technically not correct, the on-cost clearing account. On-costs relate to freight, duties and charges and the like. So this is just to do with the way the system has been set up. But the main point we want to raise here is that we're increasing the value of our stock, but at the same time we're creating a corresponding credit, because we have to tell ourselves we can't just, or not fictitiously, but we can't just generate value or wealth or assets out of nothing. There has to be a corresponding credit. So if we're creating the debit for increasing the value of our assets, we have to create a corresponding credit for that to happen, which generally will go to the P&L, as opposed to the on-cost clearing account, which is a balance sheet item. This may be a little bit accountant techno-jargony, so I apologize for that, but it's a really important point to understand, is that this is where you can get a true sense of what your items cost, which is through your maintain stock items. And I'll show you this posting of transactions in more detail another time. But if I go back to my stock, the whole purpose of this is to give us a true value of what the items that we manufacture cost. So in this case, the Ford engine. And then the other side of it is we need to make sure in assigning a true value to that inventory, we aren't inflating the value of our assets by not having another side of that entry to offset it against, which is the credit that comes through there in Exo, which will often go through to a recovery type account, which will be a credit on your account, on your profit and loss probably. If that's something that you don't see in your system currently or don't understand how that works, it's really important that you have that set up properly and that you have it working day to day. And this is something we work with our clients with on a constant basis. If you'd like to find out more, and this has been quite an in-depth accounting side of things, so well done for getting through it. But if you have any comments, questions, or further things you'd like to find out, please do not hesitate to email us or contact us. through the web page.